Trafficking is when not only is the child moved, but then the child goes through some form of exploitation. So for example, when the child arrives in the UK, the child can be used for domestic slavery or for sexual exploitation like prostitution and so on and so forth. So trafficking in short is a movement of people for the purposes of exploitation and abuse.
Sometimes people are forced into trafficking, and other times people do it because traffickers promise a better life.
My family in Nigeria were very poor. When I was 15 years old, a lady came from abroad, met my father and said, "Why are you living like this? Where I come from is very good. I can take your daughter and it will be better for you because she will be able to send money back home to you. She will have a better life and I will send her to school." He then decided that I should go with this lady. The lady then processed all the papers necessary for my travel, and I traveled with her abroad. On arrival, she did not fulfill any of the promises she made to my father. Instead, she kept me in the house to do all the housework. She also started bringing men to the house to sleep with me for money. Men used to come to the house 3 to 4 times in a week, and each time I used to sleep with between 2 to 3 men. When I didn't do what she wanted me to do, she will beat me up. When I asked her this was not what she promised me, she said, "Is this not abroad? Do you think I pluck money from trees? I brought you here to work. Can you pay back all the money I spent to bring you here?"
Across the globe, there's a lot of trafficking happening. One place in particular is Africa. Thousands of people are being trafficked from Africa to Europe. Some of them survive and some of them don't. The ones that manage to survive often become victims of exploitation and abuse. Traffickers can be male or female. They can be family relations, such as uncles, aunties, or cousins. They can also be neighbors or family friends who pretend to be nice, caring, and having your best interests at heart. They convince you that if you come with them, you can have a better life. However, they never fulfill their promise. Traffickers exploit their victims by forcing them to cut out activities they do not want to be part of, such as working for them as domestic servants, sex slaves, or unpaid labor.
Traffickers are able to exploit their victims for years. For instance, victims are made to take an oath, which forces them to obey their traffickers, as they are bound to the terms of the oath. This often has a psychological impact on the victim because they are scared of the repercussions.
I was living in a position that I hadn't dreamed of for 7 years. I found myself in a position that I did not expect. I did not want to live in this situation anymore. I was tired of the beating. There are so many things I wanted to do that I could not do. I did not have a voice to make an independent decision. I started thinking of leaving and I asked myself, will anyone believe my story? Will the authorities believe me? One day, I woke up and it was like a spirit directed me to come out of there. I have had enough. I used to be locked in the house, but on this occasion, the door was left unlocked. So I just ran out of the door. I didn't take anything. I just ran and I kept looking back to see if anyone was chasing me. After a while, I started walking on the street and crying. I was met by a Christian woman, one of the fake ones. The woman asked me why I was crying, and I told her my story. She then told me that if I report to the police, they would take me back to my country. I became very scared, and she said she would help me. She asked me to make a secret agreement with her to tell no one about my story, and that she will help me so that I don't go back to my country. She then took me to her house, and instead of helping me, she used me to take care of her children, 2 boys, who were 8 and 3 years old. I did all the washing, cooking, and the cleaning. She didn't allow me to go outside except to pick up the children from school. I worked all day, morning to night. I was too scared to tell anyone. It was like a nightmare with no escape.
A planned escape might involve a neighbor, a charity organization, or agency who might be able to signpost you to specialist agencies who will help the person recover from their ordeal and move on with their life. An unplanned escape might lead to further exploitation due to lack of access to services. This will often lead the victim to return back to the abuser because the victim might find themselves exposed to further exploitation, such as lack of money, homelessness, and life on the streets, which can be very, very tough. One day, one of the men who used to sleep with me pitied me and said to me, "You're a small girl. You shouldn't be doing this. I'll arrange a way for you to escape." We then set a date that we will meet. On that day, the lady went out as she usually did, and I took the key, unlocked the door, and ran. I went to meet the man. He showed me a police station and told me to go and report myself to the police. I was afraid to go to the police, so I just continued walking on the street, and I begged the woman on the street for money. She asked me why I was begging, and I told her my story. She took me to her house. She found some information online about a charity called AFRUCA. AFRUCA then contacted the police in regards to my story. They also helped me get a solicitor who helped me with immigration and the Home Office. The Home Office asked me lots of questions, and while I was waiting for a decision, they put me up in housing. Now, I'm still working with AFRUCA, trying to get on my 2 feet.
I think there is some awareness of trafficking. I think it's growing. I mean, for example, if you look at us at AFRUCA, we're always running different awareness raising campaigns. There's still a lot we can do in order to make people understand that, this is what's going on, and it's your role to help young people. When you see a young person or a child being abused or exploited, you must do something about it. And that's one of the reasons why we're producing this video. The advice I would like to give to young people who have experienced trafficking is that, number one, they mustn't lose hope. They've been through a terrible experience. Bad things have been done to them. Sometimes it's people they trust, who've really done all these things to them. But they mustn't lose hope. They mustn't lose hope about life. They mustn't lose hope in other human beings. And also that there's a lot of help and support out there. You need to find a way of reaching help and support. If you have access to the internet, for example, you can find out about AFRUCA, you can find out about services for young people who have been trafficked, but your first priority is to get somebody who can help you.